Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
The City Council this afternoon will be meeting not at 6 p.m. when it normally gathers to deal with the dry, dusty bones of administrative purchases and the like, but will be meeting at 4 o'clock on account of wanting the people who might otherwise attend the meeting to enjoy what is called National Night Out. National Night Out is a program that has been going on for about 35 years. I think this is the 35th year, and it is more needed than ever as police across the country are losing their grip, losing their fealty, their allegiance among the people. And so it's more important than ever that the Chattanooga Police Department, which is having trouble finding recruits, engage the people who are the policed, right? They are the police and you are the policed. That is how they view it. And the entire presentation by the chart that is published this morning from the police department suggests that there is a kind of police-centric perspective. And when I look at the chart that says that identifies the locations for these festivities among cops and the people, I noticed how the document was structured. It was structured by groups, which is to say Adams South or Baker North. That's the first column. There are 4 columns that are obviously important to the people. Right? People want to know what your sector is, and we'll start our gathering information about getting together with you and our neighbors, right, for a safer and happier community in that context. Adam North, Baker South, and Charlie North. That's the Lake Hills area, and East Lake Park. That has the name there. So there is in the way this is framed, there is we're going to start with where we are, and we're going to work our way out to first the location, then the time, and then the elements, which is to say food, games, music. They're not all the same, but there is this effort by the police department to engage in the public and to prove themselves. Now, the argument being made is a very I'll call it a very low caliber argument. The argument is not that we are essential, that we're helpful. It's not that we're safe. It's not that we protect the public. But it's a minimal argument, and that is that we are human, and that is the reasoning behind this event, and also behind the Civilian Police Academy, the Citizen Police Academy, of which I'm a part, every Thursday evening at 6 o'clock for a couple hours in the police department compound on Ann McCullough Highway. There is an effort to connect with people, to as the national website says, to build a community. It's a community building campaign that promotes police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live. Well, okay, how centered is the police perspective on itself and its mission, this high and glorious mission? Is it other-centric or is it self-centric? And we have to, as we ask that question, we have to just ask the obvious question. And I just left this message for Trevor Thomas, the new PIO. There's a former talking head on a TV station who's called Eliza Mizal. She's a public information officer who does not return reporters' calls, does not return emails. Just as Rob Simmons, the PIO who left, I think he's gone into the robbery division or some other division in the department, has a very bad reputation with me for not getting back. So here I've left a message for Trevor Thomas, and the question that I left on his voicemail is this: to further our investigation here on the David Toulis Show of our leading department with 500 sworn officers keeping us safe. A department which probably is 200% of what it really needs to be, maybe maybe 300% of what it needs to be in size and payroll. The question is this: will cops stand down for the meetings tonight with the public, or will they be in all their finest military glory? And by that, I mean, will they be wearing their best armor under their blue garb? Will their costumes include the full ammo clip? Now, these officers have the latest style in webbing is to have 3 clips that are at your, I think, on your left hip. So if you're right-handed, I'm not sure which hip it's on, but you can for the best easy access to your multiple clips, your multiple magazines. You have 3. So if you have a 40 caliber and those clips hold, let's say, 14 plus 1 in the chamber, you can fire 14 plus 1 at this event, right? If danger occurs, plus you've got another 14 plus another 14 plus another 14. And are we safer with the officers? Is security enhanced with the officers in their full military regalia, or are we safer with them saying, let's just go minimal today. Let us be like the people. Certainly, there are many armed citizens, and for these, we have to thank God for the decentralization in security that the armed citizen concept implies. Some of these people have state licenses from the Department of Safety and Homeland Security to make it legal. Others don't. But either way, the armed citizen is someone we should look up to and to be thankful for, because they take a risk having a weapon on them. Many people who are killed by police are not guilty of anything, but they have a gun on them and they're shot for having a gun on them. I'm thinking of Castillo, for example, who was reaching for his driver's license after declaring that he had a permit to carry. He was shot dead in his car. Will the cops stand down? And the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. Do you plan to take part in the festivities? City Council is meeting earlier today at 4:00 to go over the details of administration, since the City Council, I think, has perhaps given up on government and views itself as simply nodding through zoning variances and petitions for variances, permission for private people asking permission of the city for them to do something to their own property. That's what a lot of city council work is given to, the city's extra constitutional management of private property. But it's pretty tedious. It might sound exciting to be involved in that, but really, if you are on the city council or sit through the meetings, sometimes which are quite short, you might think, well, that's pretty boring. Even though violating principles of free markets, principles of constitutional government, you'd think would be thrilling. You think it's just a thrilling thing to be involved in something illicit, right? Like, things that are illicit have greater thrill for the participant than things which are lawful. Now, the community night out, the national night out, has sort of a hoopla angle. There are block parties, some parts of town. There are festivals, parades here and there, according to the national website, cookouts, and other various community events with safety demonstrations. What that would be, of course, we have blue lights on our cars, and we have armor, and we have guns, seminars, youth events, and the website goes on to say visits from emergency personnel and exhibits and much more. Now, my question here, as we think about this, is the mayor, and also Christy Gillenwater, who is the new CEO president of the Chamber of Commerce. What is Christy Gillenwater talking about? There's a brief press statement in the newspaper this morning, and Mayor Burke, in discussing the visioning process. This is David Toulis. Caller, what's on your mind? And the mayor is saying we can control the future. We are a city of creators, and we have to feel the power of creation. This is the biggest act of creation that we can do. 800-8949, 800-8949 is the number, brought to you by Nuganomics.com. And we think here at Nuga Radio 92.7 FM that you report and the world decide. Love your neighbor and buy local. Of course, the idea would be love your neighbor as yourself. But the idea of local economy that I, David Toulis, the blogger with the biggest pen, espouse is very much is very much part of the commandments that the Lord gives to his listeners and his readers. If you like us on Facebook, that'd be terrific. We are at Nougat Radio. David Toulis here, and my show solicits your support. My show, as an independent part of this station, it is integral and yet independent. And you can go to the GoFundMe page, the David Toulis Show. Just my name has one L in it, David Toulis, the David Toulis Show, and support me so I can pay my way through pay for my time, as it were, on the station. Now we talk about this National Night Out event, and we're asking Trevor Thomas whether the police will stand down or whether, going in the opposite direction, they will be there with their armored personnel carriers, with their Bearcat. I know the county has one. Will they be bringing out their long range rifles, their sniping rifles? Maybe there are other weapons that we have not heard about, but there are many weapons which are involved in the suppression of human life in some form, either to make it unconscious, to make it writhe on the ground, or to suffer agonizing half hour of inability to breathe when there's gas or pepper spray used. All of course, in the interest of righteousness, justice, and truth. And the mayor now is saying we control the future. To get back to him, and Christy Gillenwater, head of the area Chamber of Commerce, the program is being undertaken following, maybe mimicking what we had back in the 1980s and early 90s of Vision 2000. I think it may have been called. I'm not remembering right offhand what it was called, but Dave Crockett was involved in it, and I was a great skeptic at the time. I've moderated my harsh analysis somewhat, having gotten to know one of the leaders of that program at the time. But the program now is going to be called Velocity 2040, and it's called a visioning process. And this announcement was yesterday. It's here's the language in the press statement: a county-wide planning process reminiscent of the visioning efforts that sparked the Renaissance. Now, get me right on one thing. Downtown is important, and I believe that if we have a focus on the city itself and on neighborhoods, not government projects. I don't mean in that sense of attention, but I mean if we can just get the government off of the people enough so that they can grow properly and organically, we're going to be better off. And I'm very skeptical of planning generally when planning is civic as opposed to market. Okay, market planning is when the market does things and people, without being impeded upon by officials, do what they want to do in liberty, right? That's called a free market. That's called free enterprise. Whether that's a market for housing or factory space or retail space, let people do what they want to do. We don't have a free market in Chattanooga, and so we have many, many distortions, dislocations, disturbances, if you will, and that give rise to what some would say are injustices. And they're unjust because there is a law or a license or a privilege or favor that's being exercised. If it's not government involved, if the government is not involving itself in that particular market, then one cannot complain of injustice. One simply complains about there being results of the market, right? That is a different thing than an injustice. An injustice is something that comes from government, right? Injustice is the problem in human society that is remedied by what's called redress, right? Redress of grievances. Why does the Constitution have that phrase, redress of grievances? Because the grievance is caused by the government, right? That's why it is enshrined in our Bill of Rights. We have a right to redress grievances because the government causes problems in society with its banking sector, its cartels, its licensing regimes, its police regimes, its war-making regimes, its exclusive contracts, its legislation to favor individuals and individual groups. You have what are called grievances, right? And so we have redress of grievances. Marketplaces don't cause situations that require grievance redress, right? The market just lets people move on, right? If something doesn't satisfy you in the market, you just move on. Now, the question we have that I have for this visioning program is this, to kind of highlight this event and highlight the mayor's statement yesterday and Christy Gillenwater's statement yesterday about this new visioning process. What is the vision that we want to have? And what can you do to contribute to it? You, my listener, here on the David Tulis Show, and you can take a part of my show. You can. It's your show as long as you let me have it. Well, as long as it's my show, as long as you let me have it, and it's your show when you want it. Okay, you have absolute liberty to join me in a chat about your problem or your argument or your analysis. Do feel free to do that. I'm a pretty good listener. And I'd say I have a virtue of being able to listen to people, though when you're in radio, sometimes listening is hard, right? It's hard sometimes to listen because you keep thinking, well, I've got to keep things moving along and so on. And so you're sort of maybe self-conscious, and when you're self-conscious, you don't listen as well. And I'm trying by practice here on the show, on the David Tulis Show, which you can support by going to GoFundMe, by the way. I'm trying to become more at ease with you, my listener, and feel like I'm comfortable with you, that it's just you and me, right? Just you and me, maybe my guest as well. And we're getting to know each other, and we're talking about reform and about the future. Now, I'm always interested in reform, right? As a journalist, I have a standard. I have an argument that is my assumption, right? These are assumptions, and they are points that I make about what people should do, right? I'm giving recommendations, giving advice. And there's no charge. I'm the blogger with the biggest pen, and everything I do is for free. Everything, whether I write it or speak it, is to you, it's free. And I do suggest you subscribe to Nouganomics.com. That's my website, and that's Nouganomics.com. My post today is on the very point of this visioning process, and Velocity2040.com. There's a survey there that you can take if you want to give your view. But like I say, the idea of visioning and so on is where you have a civic, where you have government, you sort of have soft government as opposed to government by law and compulsion. You have a kind of soft consensus government, which operates kind of secretively, and through which many pernicious and evil things come against us. In the way of regulations, in the way of alliances, of affiliations with the federal power, with dealings with federal agencies that give the city over to the authority of bureaucrats. If they're Obama bureaucrats, they're bad. If they're Trump bureaucrats, they're probably less bad. But still, they are bureaucrats. The visioning process, I would like to suggest, should include something creative, and that is what one thing that I'm trying to contribute to this effort. And that is Title 55 reform, and that is police traffic stop reform. That I don't know that it can be celebrated tonight, because tonight the people like you in your neighborhood will be meeting with officers and the people who join the police force with a very high calling indeed, probably almost every one of them. And some of the older ones have just turned against the people, and it's clearly in their minds us against them, and the people are always to be considered dangerous. And you're constantly looking at every person you see, especially wearing a sports jacket, and thinking, does that man have a gun, and will he kill me? I mean, you look at everybody that way. You're never at your ease. You're constantly surrounding yourself with like-minded people, all suspicious of the public, right? Now, my concern is for you that we have progress, and I have put forth a project called the Administrative Notice Project, and I'm told by some people that it's kind of frightening to officials. I'm told by some people that, well, you're scaring people, David, and I shake my head. I say, that can't be. How can simply restating the statute on transportation hurt anybody? They just the officials, now that they've been notified, simply have to obey the statute. And if they obey the statute, if Title 55 reform takes place, then we have a major reform, and it will come because it will raise the ugly hand. It will raise the spiked fist. It will remove from the poor, the immigrant, the widow and the orphan, and everybody else will benefit too. the heavy hand of enforcement on the roads. That is to say, when people are in their personal modes of movement, their personal modes of conveyance, right? Cars and trucks, motorbikes. If they're doing these things, doing these acts of movement, it's called communication. If they're communicating privately on the road, they have a right to be there. It is called the public right of way for a reason. The roads belong to the people and not to the state. And therefore, no one can force these poor black people, these Hispanics who are here in Guatemala. They're safe. Values safe. They're here from Honduras, where the gangs control. The murder capital is in Central and South America. The murder capital of the world capital, according to the Wall Street Journal, page 1 2 days ago. In those parts of the world. And they are here, and we're going to keep them here, and we're going to make them glad to be here, and we're going to stop arbitrary, harassing, threatening activity by the good people. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A credit card skimming device was found at a gas station on Amnicola Highway. Reports say police are working with surveillance camera footage to ID the person who placed it at the BP. If you used your card to buy gas at the BP on Amnicola, check your bank statements for fraudulent charges. President Trump appearing in Johnson City, Tennessee last night to campaign for Marsha Blackburn, saying, quote, "A vote for Marsha is really a vote for me." Meanwhile, in Chattanooga, Phil Bredesen attended the Choose Chattanooga event at the Bessie Smith Hall. Bredesen used the time to answer questions and make his political positions clear. And Chattanooga police asking for the public's help in solving a fresh murder case. Officers rushing to the scene of a shots fired call on Windsor Street to find 18-year-old Teonte Rice, who later died at the hospital. If you have any info, call Chattanooga Police. You can remain anonymous. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Raider Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora Tora Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend a weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need AMCO Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. AMCO Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that in.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect partly cloudy and warm weather out there for your afternoon. Can't rule out a spotty shower, but most of it staying dry. Highs 82 to 85 tonight. Lows back into the mid-60s. For Wednesday and Thursday, more unseasonably warm weather with some sunshine and highs 85 to 87. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as big savings on mums, pansies, and violas. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Storm Gene 12, Chief Meteorologist Pat Report.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
At Nuganomics.com today, my essay is about human flourishing and the injuries to human flourishing that are brought about by the city itself, by city government itself, and deliberate decisions to ignore state law and maintain a system, a custom of police activity, police enforcement that has been part of the legal landscape and has not been properly challenged since the 1930s. And the name is David Toulis, and I'm someone who reads law books for fun in the bathroom. I spent many hours in the bathroom last year going through the first large chunk of 2 volumes of Gibson's Suits and Chancery. I've got I think the 1954 edition, and I found that a very good treatise to while away the moments in the bathroom. So that's what I do just for fun, just for kicks. And in fact, yesterday I had a visit at Jerry Summers' office and got a whole box full of registers and rules of court, federal, and about 6 volumes from the Tennessee Code Annotated from 2018 edition and 2017 edition, the criminal statute editions, which I guess get heavy use in that office. So I got the cast-offs, and I really appreciate that because I've got my own set, but they're not current. Neither are the insert jackets in the back up to date. So I think about things and I look at the law, and what I'm doing as your host here on the David Toulis Show and as journalist, as member of the Free Press in Chattanooga, is writing about the big controversy, and that is between practice and law. And since the 30s, we've had a practice that has been ratified by the courts, but which is extra constitutional. It's unconstitutional, and it is outside the scope of authority of the statute, and that is the state Title 55 statute. So I have a project underway. It's called Notice, the Notice Project, David Toulis, and what I'm doing is trying to encourage human flourishing by discouraging the abusive use of that law. It's called the Transportation Statute, and it applies only to people, or should I say, it applies to only people in transportation. If you're a private user, you're not in transportation. If you're not carrying goods or people for hire, that is not transportation. That is simply the free use of your chattel property on the public road. The roads belong to the people, not to the state. The state cannot convert a constitutional right or the right under any statute into a licensed activity, right? The state and its actors cannot convert a right into a crime, which is what it does. It does that in the Jay Hurst prosecution in 2015. That I was the only journalist in the state to cover that, the only one who understood what was going on. And that's what you get from me. You might say the alternative narrative, what is in fact the deep state narrative. Now, I mentioned the deep state, and I want to just bring your attention for a second to change the subject to I have it here, to a quote in let's see. Yeah, David Stockman's piece at LouRockwell.com. It's about the Kavanaugh hearings. And he says, as is evidenced by the heated umbrage and sanctimonious outrage emanating from Fox News and the GOP talking point machine, they see this, the Democrats, as another opportunity to prosecute the culture war and hypermobilize the anger and money of the base, not merely to put a conservative on the Supreme Court. That's the Republicans. More importantly, it's just one more chance to do the easy stuff politically. Campaign against the liberal media. This is the easy stuff, right? The George Soros mafia and the assorted wackos and fruitcakes which comprise the Dems' motley identity politics coalition. But fighting the culture war a la Fox News is a cop-out. Now here, and he's right. And that's why I don't talk about national politics, because national politics are irrelevant. It's people like Brandon Woodruff here in Chattanooga who have the answers. We can't look to anybody on whatever side of the aisle you're on in Washington to solve the country's problems or the city's problems. But he says, but fighting the culture war a la Fox News, this last quote, okay, and then I'll drop it, is a cop-out. The job of the purported conservative party in America today is to stand strong for free markets, sound money, fiscal rectitude, shrinkage of the welfare state, and decentralization of government. And while they're at it, shedding the putrid, this is choice, shedding the putrid incubus of neocon foreign policy and its fiscally and morally destructive pursuit of empire. Alas, Donald Trump has no interest, he says, in a single shred of this proper conservative agenda, but given his history as a promotional con man and sometimes bully boy, he obviously relishes the Kavanaugh carnival because it's political catnip for the base. That, I don't talk about national politics, and really, if you want to talk about that, you call somebody else here on the David Tula Show. I do want to get into local doings, local things, and by the way, there's a local thing you want to do too, and that is Thursday at the Starbucks at 10 North. That's 10 North Starbucks on the North Shore. It's the Gridiron Gang show live, and that's at 7 o'clock in the evening. So after dinner with your beloved, why don't you go on out for a coffee, maybe a bit of dessert at the Starbucks at 10 North every Thursday night. And our local stars, there, Keon and the whole sports gang are there and do take part in that. It's a great little outing at the Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. That's in the new high rise there. And the reason I don't get to these national questions is because I'll let better people than I deal with them, and because you want me to talk about Chattanooga and how do we make this a flourishing city. The city will not flourish so long as there are evils that are clearly reported on, right, by me primarily. And if these evils are not properly addressed with legal compulsion behind them, because that's my argument, has a legal analysis which is compulsory. Okay, let's put it that way. The idea that Mayor Andy Burke, who makes great talk in his quote about the visioning process in Chattanooga, he's been told that his department has to obey the statute, and that's called administrative notice, and that came to city government through the city council by personal delivery by me, David Toulis, your reporter and host, right? The blogger with the biggest pen. And also to the city attorney. So the city has been properly notified as a corporation about the limits of the statute, and thereby the necessity of reforming traffic stop or transportation stop enforcement procedures and protocols. And I've given the solution. I've told everybody on the city council there's one question that needs to be injected at the beginning of every transportation stop under Title 55, which is whether it's a tail light out, a brake light out, a busted headlight, or someone going too fast, whatever the ostensible pretext of a stop is. The question is, and this allows the officer to determine whether he has subject matter jurisdiction. The question is, here it is, and the city knows this. The mayor knows this. David Roddy knows this, and yet the practice continues. I have a second piece that came out today, expressing concern for the officers involved, the officers in the traffic division in these corporations, these towns such as Red Bank and East Ridge and Chattanooga. They're personally liable for the breach, the breach of the statute. And so there has to be an order that comes from the top. Do we need to have a visioning process to see that we can relieve the poor, we can relieve the African American, we can relieve the man who fled the murder empire in Guatemala and Honduras, the leading places for murder around the world, Nicaragua, all the worst. There are hellholes. That's why these people are here. They're absolute hellholes. And we Chattanoogans, I suggest here, should welcome them. Do we need to have a visioning process, or can we relieve Chattanooga of a distressing problem? And that is called ultra vires enforcement. Ultra vires is Latin for outside the view, enforcement outside the scope of the statute. And this is a compelling argument, and it is an argument that I'm trying to interest important people on, and asking important people. And who are these people? I know some by name, but some I just meet in God's providence. And to me, when I meet someone in God's providence, that person is important. By the way, make sure you tune in every Saturday here at Nooga Radio. We've got a great program called We've Got You Covered. We've Got You Covered Radio, hosted by Scott Schrader, and a legion of experts, really people who come on this program, tell you how to repair your home, how to invest in your home, things you can save money on, things upon which, of course, you can spend money improving your great asset. Presented by Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. That's every Saturday here at 92.7 FM. And also, we are two radio stations. The other is we are flattered to be part of this platform, 95.3 FM HD4. That's high definition TV4. And we argue there, love your neighbor, buy local. And by the way, do support my show. It is all, for me, it's all just charity. It's all a work of grace. I'm giving grace to people since God has given me so much in forgiving me of my sins. I have a burden to pass on as much as I can to other people. GoFundMe.com is where you can find my show, the David Tooley Show at GoFundMe. So we're using social media to every advantage to support the operation of the blog. That is to say, Nooganomics.com, our sponsor. That's Nooganomics.com. The number 800-8949. Call me. 800-8949. Dave Tools. Now, I want to. We talk about the vision for the city, and this Velocity 2040. I mean, Velocity 2040 sounds really very, very grand. I suppose there's something like a 223 cal bullet whizzing by when I hear that name. But there's something I want to get to, and that is the idea of a sanctuary. Chattanooga is already a sanctuary city. Okay, we already are a sanctuary city. Probably the best writer who's dealt with this topic is Gary North. He has an essay that came out in January in which he says that all cities are sanctuary cities, and they are that way because of the vastness of the spider webbing of reality into the statutes and laws and regulations, state and federal. There's so many that they can't all be enforced, and so what happens is that there is a partial enforcement of laws that are, let's say, legal laws, right, as opposed to illegal laws, and on top of those, illegal practices that are routine in government agencies. Government agencies often operate outside their scope, and I had to have a lawsuit with a the commissioner of safety over his misreading of a statute, and that let him, his misreading gave him a pretended claim of authority over me that I rejected. And so I know from personal experience, and you may know from personal experience too, how officials are just slippy on the rules that they are bound by, right? They're officials and bureaucrats are supposed to be backwards looking. They can't be progressive like you want to be, right? They have to look backwards because they're covering their asses, and they don't want to put anything in writing. So, first of all, make sure you get it in writing. Anytime you have a dealing with an official, make them state their authority and get it in writing. Don't do anything orally, and don't let them on your property. I would suggest, but we have enforcement, but it's limited. Now, how is it limited and why? North says that every city is a sanctuary city. In fact, not just because some mayors and some county commissions and city commissions vote to protect immigrants, right? We're going to not cooperate with ICE, the federal immigration enforcement. We're not going to cooperate with them. That's just kind of show. That's just Democrat Party show. But there is already a libertarian analysis of the sanctuary city concept, and I have urged Mayor Burke to create a sanctuary city in Chattanooga. He has ignored this call because he's busy thinking about vision. Right? He's wanting to have vision. In a way, the Mayor Burke is just a lot of show. There's a lot of show there where he says we can control the city. We are a city of creators, and we have to feel the power of creation. This is the biggest act of creation that we can do. This visioning process that he's promoting with Christy Gillenwater of the Chamber of Commerce. But there is already effectively a sanctuary city because of the impossibility of enforcing all the laws that are there. And so enforcement, if you follow the Pareto principle, the Pareto distribution principle, there is limited enforcement. 80% of the money probably enforces to 20% of the regulations. He's just guessing, he says, when he makes that proposal. So 2/3 of all enforcement money applied, as he calculates it, down to about 4% of the laws and regulations. And he explains how that works out, but it's a very small. Most of the money goes to enforcing just a tiny fraction of the laws. That means the other laws are benignly ignored by the people, and the ignoring of these laws by the people ignored as well. He says the reason why we have any liberty at all, and the reason we have any money left over in local government budgets for bridges and mosquito abatement programs and public schools, is that the laws on the books are rarely enforced, and then when they're enforced, it's only sporadically. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. You report, or let's say you record, right? You record on your smartphone. That's what you should do. Record. Just let me find out about it. Let me know what's happening with you. Let me know. Remember, if something happens to you that's remarkable, that's newsworthy, David Toulis wants to know. David Toulis and 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, brought to you by Nooganomics. And also the GoFundMe page, the David Toulis Show. Cities can't possibly afford to enforce all these laws, right? To attempt to do so would bankrupt the city. That's why it's very partial, because it's so the rules are so myriad, so comprehensive, so many, so deep, requiring so much support, so much advice, so many compliance contracts to support that cities just say, well, we're just not going to worry about that. We're just try to stay away from this area, and just don't put anything in email about it, so that nothing will show up in a FOIA request on whether we have paid attention to this law or not. So the federal government can't do it either. And so the federal government demands the cities do it. The cities then turn a blind eye to the request, he says, and the cities pretend to enforce most federal regulations, and the federal government, in turn, pretends not to notice that the cities are pretending. That's essentially what seems to be in effect. But what I'm proposing in the way of visioning the future for people like Brandon Woodruff and Marie Mott, who are the future people who are going to run Chattanooga, is that we make a decision now based on the statute in Title 55. And that is obey the statute. We're going to obey the statute and effectively end police traffic enforcement. That's what's in view. That is clearly what's in view. Now, it's interesting that the support for policing, and I bet the support for policing is probably strong in the black clergy, which it shouldn't be, but it is. And support for policing is strong among patriotic conservatives like Darren Ledford. They are Constitution-loving, conservative, free market-oriented business people, right? Entrepreneurial types. And they cannot envision the idea of a free market in travel. They just can't envision it. You know, I'm a Christian, okay, and someone with a libertarian bent. It's called, by the way, it's called being a classical liberal, right? Classical liberal. Just try that out for size. Maybe you can become one too. If you just stay tuned to the David Tullis Show, you can become a classical liberal. That way, you get to use the word liberal to amaze all your liberal friends and win them over to your perspective. And you can shock your conservative friends who are still old guard, you know, big military, build the wall. We need to have the IRS. We need to have state surveillance. And we need to have, we need to have people like Judge Kavanaugh, who in the past has been a strong backer of surveillance, right? He is, in one of his opinions, he defended the collection, the sucking up of metadata. That is in his mind, not at all an affront to the Fourth Amendment or the Fifth Amendment. Not an offense at all. Not a lick. Judge Brett Kavanaugh is a defender of the big state. So where was I? But we have a sanctuary city, in fact, in Chattanooga. But what I want for us is that we have people like Marie Mott, and maybe even people like Darren Ledford, who is a young man who ran for the state house recently. And in fact, Marie, who is our morning star at 11 o'clock every weekday, was his campaign manager. And you say, boy, David, you're a conservative Republican, right? What are you cozying up to these black Democrats for? What do you have in common with them? Well, my interest is in liberty, and my interest is in prosperity, in prospering, and so I'm not particularly concerned about labels, and people can agree with me, even though they think that, wow, that label there, that's David Tullis, right? He's on the Sean Hannity station, right? David Tullis station where you hear Alex Jones on the weekend, right? And what good can come from him? Well, I think you should be more open-minded than that, right? To be not quite so reactionary. And I do thank you for tuning into the program. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. You report the world decides. Make sure that you go to Rooter Pros for your plumbing needs. Rooter Pros, ROOTER-PROS, Rooter Pros in Cohutta, Georgia. Great outfit, just a terrific plumber, Roy Giles. It's David Tullis, Nugget Radio, and now we've got CBS News just ahead.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news. Now.
A credit card skimming device was found at a gas station on Amnicola Highway. Reports say police are working with surveillance camera footage to ID the person who placed it at the BP. If you used your card to buy gas at the BP on Amnicola, check your bank statements for fraudulent charges. President Trump appearing in Johnson City, Tennessee last night to campaign for Marsha Blackburn, saying, quote, "A vote for Marsha is really a vote for me." Meanwhile, in Chattanooga, Phil Bredesen attended the Choose Chattanooga event at the Bessie Smith Hall. Bredesen used the time to answer questions and make his political positions clear. And Chattanooga police asking for the public's help in solving a fresh murder case. Officers rushing to the scene of a shots fired call on Windsor Street to find 18-year-old Teontae Rice, who later died at the hospital. If you have any info, call Chattanooga Police. You can remain anonymous. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News Now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7. Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect partly cloudy and warm weather out there for your afternoon. Can't rule out a spotty shower, but most of us staying dry. Highs 82 to 85 tonight. Lows back into the mid-60s for Wednesday and Thursday. More unseasonably warm weather with some sunshine and highs 85 to 87. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as big savings on mums, pansies, and violas. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Soar Gene 12, Chief Meteorologist, Patrick 4.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will be able to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Raines Group.
Nuga Radio. Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio. WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Genevieve. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell vowing there will be a vote on the Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination this week, rejecting what he calls Democrat delay tactics and enforcing a 7-day limit to the now expanded FBI investigation into the sex allegations against Kavanaugh.
Before boarding Marine One, President Trump told reporters gathered on the South Lawn he believes Kavanaugh is doing well as the FBI probes the sexual assault allegations against him. Mr. Trump says he doesn't see anything wrong with Kavanaugh's drinking habits as a teenager. He also called it a scary time for young men in America as the Senate tees up a vote on Kavanaugh's nomination later this week. Traveling with the president, Steve Dorsey, CBS News.
Amazon, now a $1 trillion company, today announced it will raise its minimum wage for U.S. workers to $15 an hour starting next month. Company VP Dave Clark.
We think it's going to have a huge impact for over 300,000 employees and their family just in time for the holiday season. And we're hopeful that other companies and that the government will take action increasing the minimum wage beyond $7.25, which we think is too low.
The wage hike includes seasonal and part-time employees. Relief, search, rescue, and recovery operations continue to run through a logistical nightmare in Indonesia, where the death toll from Friday's quake and tsunami is now topped 1,200. Correspondent Ben Tracy is there.
The situation here in Palu is desperate. There's very little water, electricity, or gas. The town is resorting to building a mass grave for the bodies they're finding, and now people are flocking to the airport, trying to find a way out.
And trucks carrying supplies have had to use police escorts to fight off looters. The Defense Department says 2 packages delivered to the Pentagon this week were intercepted during the screening process after tests detected levels of the deadly poison ricin. The packages were isolated, no threat to anyone. The FBI is investigating. Day 3 of that massive manhunt for a suspected double murderer in central Tennessee. Kirby Wallace accused of killing 2 people and seriously injuring a third in a crime spree that began more than a week ago. State Patrol Lieutenant Bill Miller.
We are committed to locating and apprehending this Kirby Wallace individual. He is a very dangerous individual.
There's a combined reward now for information that leads to Wallace's arrest of about $7,500. A volunteer helping to clear debris from North Carolina river flooding might have been seriously hurt when a backpack he retrieved exploded. Now police have determined that backpack contained a portable methamphetamine lab, what police call a shake and bake lab for producing the illegal drug. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 161, the NASDAQ is down 10, and the S&P up 4. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
It's time to find adventure on every drive. With Pennzoil Synthetics, you get complete protection for top engine performance. And between October 1st and November 30th, you'll get travel rewards to help you on your journey. With the purchase of any Pennzoil specialty motor oil change, you can earn up to $100 in travel reward credit. Save on hotels, rental cars, and activities. Visit Pennzoil.com/travel-on to find participating locations. Pennzoil, make the switch. Travel on. Offer ends 11/30. Terms apply. Full details at Pennzoil.com/travel-on.
Indeed knows finding the right hire takes time away from your business.
Hiring a qualified data engineer felt like a second job.
More job seekers use Indeed than any other site, so there's no better place to find someone with the skills you're looking for.
I needed someone with a master's in computer science and database experience.
Plus, Indeed screener questions help you find your shortlist fast.
Now I'm back to having just one job.
See why more than 3 million companies worldwide use Indeed to hire. Post your job at Indeed.com/hire. Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Source.com score total visits.
If you seem to have abnormally severe colds, it may be the bugs in your nose. New research suggests the amount and type of microorganisms residing in your nose can make your cold worse than others suffering from the same virus. And in particular, people who have elevated levels of Staphylococcus bacteria have more severe symptoms. The mix of nasal bacteria also appears to be linked to viral load, the amount of virus in the body. Well, the good news is some of the airlines want to give you more leg room in coach. The bad news, they want to reduce the seat size to achieve that. Currently, the average for mainline economy seat legroom is 31 inches, but several airlines have adopted 28 inches, really tight if you're 6 foot or taller. Congress considering setting a minimum distance for safety's sake, but there's nothing currently on the books to regulate seat size. Smaller seat, bigger measured distance between seats, but in reality, it's just as tight as before. Jim Chenevey, CBS News.
Shopping list getting lost.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
In Bradley County, a traffic stop turned into a fugitive apprehension. Reports say that David Dunn was stopped for a tag light violation. It was revealed he had 3 warrants out for his arrest for crimes including kidnapping. Cops say inside Dunn's car they found methamphetamine, marijuana, and a stolen handgun. A Hamilton County couple was charged in the death of a 2-year-old child. That 2-year-old was staying with Brandy Giannunzio while her family was away. Reports say Giannunzio's boyfriend, Benjamin Brown, hurt the child so severely that she later died. Brown charged with aggravated child abuse and felony murder. Courtney High pleaded not guilty to 11 counts, including murder, in Hamilton County Court yesterday. He's one of the 3 defendants facing the death penalty in the Hamilton County RICO case. He's among 55 other defendants. Neil Pinkston said the crime he's accused of committing was heinous, atrocious, and cruel. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Expect partly cloudy and warm weather out there for your afternoon. Can't rule out a spotty shower, but most of it staying dry. Highs 82 to 85 tonight. Lows back into the mid-60s. For Wednesday and Thursday, more unseasonably warm weather with some sunshine and highs 85 to 87. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as big savings on mums, pansies, and violas. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Gene 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Listen to that. That's the sound of power and the call of the open road. That's the sound of the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. It's more than a bike. It's an experience and an American icon. The place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. The open road is calling. Answer the call. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the second annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I love my job. I'm going to demand from the management more time. 2 hours a day is just not enough to get in everything that we have. And Rocky have to say, or Brandon Woodruff have to say, David Toulis here at 92.7 FM and 95.3 FM HD4. Make sure you check out my GoFundMe page, The David Toulis Show, seeing if there is a lick of interest in my continuing the program. And you can let me know whether I should or shouldn't by dropping into the figurative hat a buck or two. Brought to you by Nuganomics.com and also Router Pros, an outrageously good service for plumbing in North Georgia, but serving Chattanooga as well. I've got on the phone a caller, Rocky. Rocky, thanks for calling in. You're a veteran, traveled much of the world, serving the federal imperial interest, we could say. What's on your mind, Rocky?
Well, I was listening earlier about the comment you made about God's providence and that the immigration, that we should be a whole lot more open. And I paid close attention to what you were saying about these people that are running from things in, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, all these places down in Central America. And I thought I'd throw a couple of numbers out at you. A couple things. According to UNICEF, right now, there are more than 1.3 billion people living in extreme poverty in the world. Now, given that, and just in Central America, the numbers are real hard to report. I spent a lot of time down there, especially in Honduras, Ecuador, Peru, Guatemala. And so the numbers down there are a lot harder to put your finger on. But the estimate of people living in worse than extreme poverty are anywhere between 20 and 120 million people. So at what point do we say, this is how many? I've never had anybody. Now I am a conservative. I am also, but I'm an independent, and I lean towards a libertarian on a lot of programs frame of mind. But where do we draw the line? I've been to these countries. I've seen all the work we put in down there. I spent 25 years in the military. And most every deployment I took down there was to build infrastructure for these countries, to help these countries after their earthquakes, things like this. But where do we draw the line? What's the number? We have 325 million people in America. What's our number? Do we quadruple that number of people? Where do we find a sustainable balance of letting people immigrate to this country?
Well, that's a great question, and thanks for asking it, Rocky. Now, I would suggest the following, that there not be a number that we have to come up with, because once you come up with a number, you automatically imply, well, there should be an authority to make that number stick. If we have a number in mind, we're measuring the wills of people who are far away, who want to come here, who want to make efforts to come here, if we said, well, this is the number we're going to put down, well, now we have to enforce that number. I don't believe there should be a number at all, and that there should be the freedom of people to move across borders, across lines. These national boundaries are simply lines on the earth that say, at this point, the authority of a particular government ends and the authority of another government begins. You're under one law sphere here, and you're under a different law sphere when you cross over that imaginary line. The line does not mean that these bodies are self-contained. After all, we are the human race, and people don't all vacate one country and move into another unless there's a war, and sometimes you have giant migrations. But don't forget, human migration is part of how civilization advances, where things are mixed up. People go where they want to go. If they're not criminals, Rocky, if they're not criminals, why do you want to prohibit and criminalize the movement of innocent people and their wives and children and relatives? Why is that a problem?
Two things on that. One is, if you open the gates, let's say we take the borders away, every food source, water source, and healthcare source that we have will be overwhelmed within 2 years. Guaranteed. It would happen. Then, now we will have become the country that they have tried to escape. That everyone would be in poverty. If you take and just level everything out, then everyone is in extreme poverty. The only thing that will keep that from happening is you have to have a level of capitalism without people who are out there pushing to make the dream. If everybody can just come and take, then what is their incentive to work?
Well,
what's their incentive to make things happen? We've seen that. We've seen what happened in Greece. We've seen what happened down in Ecuador when the U.S. forces backed out. There was a huge vacuum, and then the Russians moved in. Same thing that happened in Panama when the Chinese moved in and have basically taken over the Panama Canal. You're one way or another, there's going to be a country with borders. Whether it's the U.S. or not, that country that has those borders will become the sole superpower in the world, because you cannot, there's no way to keep up the people. Let's say we triple our population, or quadruple our population. We cannot feed, house, and take care of those people, and at the same time protect our borders.
Well, Rocky, listen, thank you very much for calling, but I think the answer would be in this direction. We live in a hugely underpopulated planet. We are vastly underpopulated, and the idea that people come only to consume is a you might say, I would suggest, is not a free market analysis of the human condition. My own analysis is that the marketplace, the people will generally work cooperatively, and if there's minimal government, which is to say minimal predation, you're going to have most success for the most number of people, the lowest prices, and the most offerings of goods and services. When you have state capitalism, though, which is what we have in this country, and welfarism, people themselves become predatory, and they, as in the Russian economy, before it collapsed, everyone was a predator. Everyone wanted the free benefits, but didn't want to work. They pretend to pay us, and we pretend to work was the motto in the Soviet Union. But here, when you do have still a lot of capitalist impulse left, and the state, though in many ways authoritarian and totalistic, there are many pockets and many areas of the marketplace, and there you have prosperity. So what we need to have in Chattanooga are tens of thousands of more people to come here and to live here and to bring their ideas, their children, their customs, and don't forget, a strong culture is never overturned by a weaker culture. If we have a strong Christian culture, which we do have, I'd say it's B- or C+ rating. I would say it's not as strong as it could be. That culture and its benefits and strengths cannot be overturned by newcomers. Newcomers will rather say, I want to be like the people there. Why did people in old Israel, Rocky, stay there? Well, escaped slaves went there. People from all around the world went there to hear what Solomon had to say and to live under its free laws. The laws in Israel, which which you might say or summarize would be the Ten Commandments, that country was so free that kidnapping was a capital offense. So if you have kidnapping as a capital offense, you don't have police abuse cases like we have in this country, which are rampant in this country. They are rampant in this country. Police abuse, kidnapping, false arrest, that's a capital offense. It was a very, very free, libertarian, you might say anarcho-capitalistic country under God's laws. And so the idea of your whole perspective seems to be wanting not understanding how the market actually works. The more people can interpenetrate and trade culturally, economically, the more prosperity you have, the fewer people in dire poverty. And I think your necessity analysis, Rocky, may be over the top. Things are not anywhere near as bad as they were 100 years ago. The human race is continually improving. So listen, Rocky, thanks for calling. And the number is 800-8949. You can call to express your regards on anything at all. Feel free to interrupt my guest and me, or me if it's just me on the mic. The number is 800-8949. And Rocky, thanks again for calling. But that you are expressing the typical conservative position, which is that a border means it's a wall. No, a border doesn't mean it's not a wall. It's just simply where a particular authority to regulate ends and another one begins. That's all it is. And people should be free to come and go as they please. The conservative position is open borders. The liberal position is border controls in the police state. The liberals are the police state people, but they've converted the Republicans and the conservatives to be pro-police state on the border and 200 miles all around it. That's what we have in these internal traffic stops from border control, hundreds of miles inland, which are abusive of our liberties. Now, these are great questions because we want to look at them in terms of Chattanooga, and the name is David Toulis, and we have with us in the studio Brandon Woodruff, who ran against Yusuf Hakim in a district in Middle Chattanooga. Yusuf Hakim is a Democrat in the 70s, former city council member. And Brandon, you were one of how many rivals for this state house nomination?
Yes, sir. It was 5 of us. 5 of us.
Okay, and one large name to win that balloting.
Yes, sir.
And what was it that you were trying to? What was the argument you were making for your candidacy in that race, Brandon?
So the position, and once again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come on the show and just be reintroduced to the community and just giving my viewpoints on some of the issues and topics today. But the main thing that during my candidacy that I was running on was just essentially getting more millennials and more people of my generation out and actively engaged in the political process. And one thing that I really, really, really appreciate about your show is that you actually are giving millennials the platform to come onto your show and to engage in conversation that, you typically don't even hear people of elder generations conversing about.
Well, aren't you making kind of an old-fashioned argument that's got a lot of wrinkles on it and gray hair? We have to get people out to vote. We have to engage people in the voting process. Are you not overvaluing what voting does? Because all voting does is change the face and the name of the person who holds the seat in the House or the Senate or the City Council. And those people, the people there, they follow sort of conventional ideas. And you really can't change much by whom you vote for, I would suggest. And yet you're thinking there's not much interest in politics. And you want to change that.
Right. And that's why, Mr. Toulis, anytime that I present my platform, I always say making sure that people are engaged in the political process, not just voting, because voting is one I would consider a large component to change, but it isn't the primary or the main. I think that the work like Marie Mott, who is a dear friend of mine, and Cameron, aka C. Grimey, and all of the grassroots efforts to educate the voting population is where it really begins and where it starts. Because once they're educated and once they understand the rights and the laws and the legislation that's already in place working in their favor, then they can go and find people that they want to represent them and to continue to push and reform, which is, I think, one of the main things that we'll talk about today, the things that are already in place that the community as a whole is privy to.
So if your listener, Brandon Woodruff, sort of sees what you're saying, he's going to understand this, that voting's important, but it's not the main thing. The main thing is what you do between elections, with and in the context of the person who has that seat in office.
Yeah,
what
I
kind
agree, 1,000%.
What kind of arguments or meetings or projects would the listener want to consider as being valuable in your mind to helping Chattanooga be a more prosperous, more gracious city?
Well, I think there needs to be there has to be more engagement and interaction between political officials and the communities in which they serve. There has to be more genuine conversations around the issues and the true things that are going on in the communities, so that local officials don't seem out of touch or are not out of touch when community members bring issues to their front doorstep. I think that there has to be a strong sense of or a stronger sense of how we as a community really just advocate for our own issues. I mean, one thing that I talked about a lot during my campaign trail, you're fine. One of the things that I talked about a lot on my campaign trail is that, you know, while I know that if elected, I will be the person to represent Chattanooga, the real work has to happen between if I'm an educator and you are somebody that is an entrepreneur, if you're somebody that does this or that, we have to come together and say, okay, what is it that we can do with the resources that we have to help the issue or the situation? And then, like once again, I can't echo or thank Mr. Toulis enough, but then find individuals who have the substance to help these blighting or these impoverished communities be able to empower themselves via coming together and then having the substance to go out and to do that. So, such as, I mean, let's just say one of the main things that I can think of is, one of the things that I'm personally doing is Mr. Hakeem is the Democratic nominee for the 28th district. And one of the things that I've seen in the past that I feel like has really hurt a lot of communities is when individuals disagree or maybe not see eye to eye with the person who has taken power or taken charge, we retreat. But I feel like the best thing we can do is not retreat, but get closer to, so that now the things that we stand for and that we stand on are actually being brought to the table.
Well, be specific. Give an example
of an example.
Well, a particular issue or problem that needs to be resolved by the public sector or the private sector, and how you propose your theory to work in that context.
Yeah, I think one of the heavy issues right now in Chattanooga locally would be how the Chattanooga Police Department interacts with the citizens in which it serves. And I think that one of the things that local officials can do, and this is a coined phrase by myself, but I call it political persuasion, and just utilizing the platforms in which the people have voted into office to represent, to be a voice, to actually voice the concerns from a higher position of the community at large in which they serve. Right now, there have been several incidents where the community has been very displeased with how they've interacted or how the Chattanooga Police Department has interacted with them. But the community doesn't, as a whole, feel like the people that we've given the political power, the political persuasion to, have actually voiced the concerns.
Aren't you being a bit diplomatic in your phrasing?
What do you mean? like not calling people's names?
Well, no. It seems to me that we should refer to what you say is there have been encounters that have not been pleasing to the public. What you're saying is there have been abusive encounters by police department with people such as Noah McLemore, the shoe shop operator, or the school teacher who was roused from his bed in a police assisted ATF raid with many machine guns and shotguns aimed at children as young as 5. That is not. I mean, I think we should call things as they are. We should describe these encounters.
No, I agree.
The Hanson Melvin case, where he was. These are. I would say they're state crimes. They're state sanctioned crimes, particularly because in some of them, where there was perjury by the officer, there was no criminal prosecution. In a manner that was highly publicized by David Toulis here on the David Toulis show and Nuganomics. We highlighted the fact there was perjury, and we have no prosecution. We have someone losing his job. That's it. That's not if Alan Trumbo, the police officer who, rather than being charged, resigned his job. And that's it. We don't have that's enough punishment for this man under the Title 55.
And I honestly believe, you're
using euphemisms, and I'm wondering why. You want to go into politics, you need to call things like they are.
I know, I agree, but I also think that it's a culture. It's a bigger problem. It's a bigger culture than just locally or centered here in Chattanooga that needs a solution. And I also believe that the culture in which police interact with, and it's not even just people of color, it's people who are living in impoverished conditions that they take advantage of.
Describe the mental framework of the police officer that you're describing here in the negative, right? Describe the problem sort of thinking that the officer has in his mind that leads him to disregard or treat harshly someone like you.
Oh man, I can't even tell you because I don't think like that. Right. So it's kind of hard for me to get into the mind of that type of individual when I've never been bred or have never been groomed to think that way. And it's also hard for me to holistically convict, I guess, police or guardians of the law when I do too know individuals within the law who actually uphold it pretty well.
Knowing specific examples that are exceptions to what you're trying to find as a rule. This is Dave Tillis. We're talking with Brandon Woodruff. We're looking into the question about reform in Chattanooga. He is a man who ran for the state house against Mr. Hakeem, who won the Democratic nomination. We're trying to find out how to look at Chattanooga and the problems in it. Do we need more government programs, or do we need a withdrawal of government activity from this area or that? That is the question. Who has the solutions? Is it the state? Is it the free market? Is it families? David Tillis will be right back.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
A credit card skimming device was found at a gas station on Amnicola Highway. Reports say police are working with surveillance camera footage to ID the person who placed it at the BP. If you used your card to buy gas at the BP on Amnicola, check your bank statements for fraudulent charges. President Trump appearing in Johnson City, Tennessee last night to campaign for Marsha Blackburn, saying, quote, "A vote for Marsha is really a vote for me." Meanwhile, in Chattanooga, Phil Bredesen attended the Choose Chattanooga event at the Bessie Smith Hall. Bredesen used the time to answer questions and make his political positions clear. And Chattanooga police asking for the public's help in solving a fresh murder case. Officers rushing to the scene of a shots fired call on Windsor Street to find 18-year-old Teonte Rice, who later died at the hospital. If you have any info, call Chattanooga Police. You can remain anonymous. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick and money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McClarty Ford at FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend a weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that in.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect partly cloudy and warm weather out there for your afternoon. Can't rule out a spotty shower, but most of us staying dry. Highs 82 to 85 tonight. Lows back into the mid-60s. For Wednesday and Thursday, more unseasonably warm weather with some sunshine and highs 85 to 87. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as big savings on mums, pansies, and violas. That's Glass Farm Nursery, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Four.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
David Toulis here at News Radio. There is tonight going on what's called the National Night Out. It is something that is an annual police marketing event where the police make friendly chatter with neighbors in their districts. Each district has officers assigned to it, and they now are wanting to get to meet people. But tonight they are not going to arrest anybody. They're not going to charge anybody. They're not going to interrogate anybody. They're not going to use anybody's statement against them to obtain probable cause against them. That will be waylaid, though it's not clear from Trevor Tomas, who has not returned my call about this, whether they will be in their full costume, which includes not only the sidearm, but multiple magazines of ammunition in case there's a major shootout, and body armor, beefing up what sometimes are rather slender young people who are trained to be post-certified in the training academy. There are fewer and fewer people willing to undergo the rigors of police training, which is a few weeks in duration. And policing is under increasingly bad name. And so here we have the National Night Out effort once more, the 35th time, community building campaign seeking camaraderie in neighborhoods, making neighborhoods a safer and more caring place in which to live and have a true sense of community, according to the Night Out national website. Policing is a violent profession, and the reason it's losing repute since Ferguson is from the stats from 2017 that more people died from police violence in 17 than the total number of U.S. soldiers killed in action. Globally, more people died at the hands of police than the number of black people who were lynched in the worst year of Jim Crow. That's 161 in 1892, and they killed more Americans than terrorists did. More citizens than airplanes, 13 deaths worldwide. Mass shooters, 428 deaths. And Chicago's top gang thugs, 675 Chicago homicides. And only 12 killer cops actually faced criminal charges for their actions. So there's a great deal of immunity in this profession. And city government probably will hear something again today about the need for reform. We have here in the studio Brandon Woodruff, who is the kind of person who is the most scrupulous object of police enforcement. Policing in America has come from slave days when these groups and agencies were all about collecting bounties for slaves who had fled their servitude, and they are part of that system. Though the hagiography of the department in the public library downtown does not give any details about this element of the founding prior to the war to prevent Southern independence of Chattanooga Corporation's department. Brandon, you're mentioning reforms, and we're talking about reforms. And the question I wanted to ask you is this: where do reforms come from? Do they come from a new program funded by taxpayers that does some positive good or has some positive claim for action? Or in the alternative, is it a reduction and a withdrawal of a state action, a state program, a state custom that is now in operation, you might say, in the marketplace? Is it a positive act, or is it a reducing and withdrawing of a bad act? Brandon.
Thank you for that question. I think it could be a little bit of both, actually. I believe that while we do need to pressure some of the things that are already in law and some of the things and actions that we see in our communities, I also believe that we have to be proactive in thinking about things that could potentially come up in the future and creating solutions on the forehand or suggesting things on the forehand to be able to negate those things from happening.
Well, can you give an example or two?
Yeah, perfect example. I remember very vividly about 2 years ago when I remember about 2 years ago. Actually, it was last year. When the state's school district came to Chattanooga to say, hey, we want to take over the school system here because you have this many felon schools, blase, blase, blase. And we as a community waited for local elected officials to call a meeting for the community to come and to discuss these laws or whatever was going to happen to these kids or to these schools post a decision already being made. And so something that's proactive in my mind, the community should already be seeing that, these schools have underperformed for, let's say, 5 years. There has to be at some point where the state is going to come in and try to turn around these schools. So what is it that we can do on the forefront to put in what we think, that what we believe can happen? Because if my thing is, it's like, how can you ask somebody who essentially put together the broken system to help you fix what you need fixed?
Well, are you not suggesting somehow that there's a great value in having a meeting, some kind of public meeting where citizens are invited to attend a discussion and show up? Are you not sort of overvaluing what that can really produce?
I think I'm saying the total opposite. I'm actually saying that the community would be calling a meeting for other community members, not a preset or predated meeting set by local or elected officials. It's more so community rooted, community based, the community recognizing and realizing the issues and their ability and their power to create solutions versus somebody else coming into their community saying, these are the suggested solutions. Just come to this meeting and hear the suggested solutions that we brought.
We've had comp outbreaks in Chattanooga since June, and when they began with the Avery Gray daughter car drag-out case downtown, there has been discussion about a police overview committee. And you're suggesting that not be something that the city council creates, but that it really come by the initiative of private parties coming together with a like mind and a goal and a purpose.
Yeah, look at Nashville.
Brandon.
Yeah, definitely. Look at Nashville. Nashville, they're actually going to get oversight boards on the ballot come November, but that had nothing to do with the government pushing that, because obviously the government is not going to push to be held accountable. So therefore, the community has to push for that. The community has to be the echoing voice of that. And then that's just like you were saying, like, right now, obviously, okay, the community work is the most important because we're in between elections. However, the reason why I do also note that voting is important is because now when you have, like in Nashville, oversight boards on the ballot, what local elected officials do you have voicing or endorsing that on the ballot?
Right. The work of creating, let's say, an oversight board for police, that helps you in working with an elected official, see where that elected official's strengths are and weaknesses. Maybe that person has just weaknesses, no resolve, no commitment, not punctual, not making, not keeping promises and so on.
Right.
And then you can say, well, this is the person we don't recommend you vote for. So you have more insight into that elected person.
Exactly. And for me, it's about being engaged. Like you can't make informed decisions if you're not engaged. And so I think it's very, very, very important that we stay engaged and that we stay having conversations. We stay reading. We stay talking to elected officials. We stay understanding what nonprofit organizations are readily available to the communities in which we serve. We have to understand what resources and what tools, what weaponry we have to actually fight this fight. Because to me, it's definitely a war.
Well, let me just mention Brandon Woodruff, my own project, which is called Police Powers Reform, and it holds that the city police have no legal authority to enforce the transportation statute, Title 55, upon the private user. And you're not in the transportation business, are you?
No, sir.
You don't have your car hauling goods or people for hire?
No, sir.
You don't have any contracts for movement of goods or people?
No, right? Uber.
No, and you're not involved.
I'm not an Uber.
Okay, so you're not involved in transportation
for hire.
Right?
No, sir.
Okay, so in the statute, we have clear evidence that the law does not touch a private activity. Now, the private activity is one that I want to just let the listener know, let you consider, Brandon, would be all kinds of things such as the exercise of rights. In other words, if you have a right, let's say, to worship at a mosque or a church or a temple, you can't be expected to ask anybody permission to get from your house to that temple, okay, to that worship center. If you have to ask permission to go there, then you don't have the right of religion, which is protected in the First Amendment and also in the Tennessee Constitution. So to get there, to exercise the right of religion, which is one of the strongly protected still, you have to be free to do it apart from any license, permission, or tax. If someone taxes you to go there, you're not free. So we have other rights. For example, we have allegedly the right to abortion. So is the mayor saying, well, you can't get an abortion, you can't get into your car and go to an abortion clinic, leaving Chattanooga, going to, let's say, Tri-Cities or Knoxville, apart from our permission, the state's permission. And if you are on the road without the state's permission, though you're going to kill your baby and you have a right to do that, my officer under David Roddy is going to stop you and ticket you and arrest you if you don't cooperate for the exercise of that right. So, but are there other rights? Let me ask you, do you exercise other rights than those two yourself, Brandon Woodruff?
Other than
religion or abortion? I mean, you couldn't exercise the right of abortion. I don't
suppose, right. I couldn't.
And religion, okay. But are there other rights that you have that are exercised by getting into a car or truck and going somewhere?
Yeah, it's the right to travel.
Well, okay, but that you're using the right to travel, but there are other rights in view. What about, you mentioned voting?
All right, yeah. I have the right to vote, right to free speech.
So to exercise the right to vote, if I have to get the state's permission to go to the ballot box or to the balloting station, am I free in the exercise of that right, or is that not a real right?
You're not free. Or it's not a it's not deemed as a right.
Right. It's really just a privilege. Let me ask you this: what's the difference between a right and a privilege?
One you have to ask permission for, the other you don't.
That's right. If it's a right,
it's given.
You ask permission of no man, no agency, no government, no authority. Right. It's within. You have the authority under God in the Constitution. These rights come from God. You have a right under God to do these things freely and innocently and harmlessly by your free will, exercising your own personal necessity. Do you have necessities that you take care of by going to and fro in a car, Brandon Woodruff?
Oh, yes, sir.
Like what?
Paying utility bills, having to go get gas to put in the vehicle. I mean, a lot of necessities. Picking things up for the house, grocery shopping, eating food.
Do you go and see people by car?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you see?
Grandparents, parents, family,
girlfriend.
Yeah, if I had one.
So to go visit a girlfriend, that's a personal necessity, right? And so that, again, you have these are rights of communication. These are called rights of free association. The liberty to associate. If it's free, then you can do it without permission. If it's not free, you have to get a permit. You have to get a pass to go on the road to see your girlfriend, to see your grandma.
Overseas, like a passport. It's almost you have to ask permission to leave the country and come back.
Right. Well, that's
different.
right. And so here we have what I'm proposing, Brandon, is that the mayor Andy Burke, and in East Ridge, where our studios are located, we have Mayor Brent Lambert. These are two examples of municipal corporations. I've said, look, Brandon Woodruff passes through your town, and he has a right to do that. And you're not going to stop him, are you? If he's maybe not using his indicator light, maybe has a light out, he's making a left turn without using his signal, maybe he's going 10 over, you're not going to stop him, are you? And the answer, of course, is silence still. But they are going to stop you, and they're going to enforce this traffic title upon you, even though you're not involved in transportation. And the argument is that they can't stop you. I mean, they may not like that you're going over down Ringgold Road, but they have legal authority only if you're involved in transportation. So that's a reform that's local, and it really is an executive decision by the mayor. The mayor can decide that because he controls the police. Mayor Lambert controls the East Ridge, and Mayor Burke in Chattanooga, or the future mayor when he's replaced, controls the police department. And she can direct, okay, we're going to obey the law. We're simply obeying the law. No more ultra virus enforcement, no more enforcement outside the scope. It's a foot wide statute, and it's enforced as if it were a 2 wide foot statute. And in current practice, everybody is subject to it. But that's not legally correct. It's actually incorrect. But, and this is where it gets complicated, the high court supports this current regime of enforcement. There is a disjointure between the statute and the Constitution and the high court policy. And I'd say it's in the legal policy. It is simply a legal fiction that the high court says, well, the only right to travel you have, Brandon Woodruff, the only right you have to travel is this: when you change your domicile from one state to another. And that's, and in fact, Neil Pinkston said that to me through his public relations person, that, well, our position is there is no right to travel. It just doesn't exist except for relocation of domicile. That's it. And that's called a legal fiction. And it comes from an activist judiciary, a judiciary which doesn't know its place and rejects the people's rights. And the reform that we have in view, and this is, I think, might be of interest to you, is because it is local and it operates through the oath of each officer. Each officer is held personally to account for this point in the law. And because these jurisdictions have all gotten the notice, their officers are legally imperiled. And just by the way, you, the listener, the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. We're talking with Brandon Woodruff about the prospects of reform. But let me just say one more thing, then I want to ask you what other reforms you want to talk about. But go to Nuganomics.com, and there are 2 essays out today. One is on the need for Sheriff Hammond, the need for David Roddy, and the other chiefs of police to care personally about their officers, because the officers personally are liable now under the doctrine of notice, which is very, very clear that notice. And we do have a call, the number 800-8949. We're talking with Brandon Woodruff, and you, caller, what is on your mind?
Hey, what I would submit to you, it's even worse than that. It's judicial tyranny. It's total lawlessness, especially at the federal level, definitely at the state level, where they don't either understand the law or can care less about it. The Russian Constitution was a good constitution, but it was ignored by the courts, the executive, the administrative, and that's what we're seeing in America. We have a great Bill of Rights that the politicians and lawyers laugh at. I've been a part of it, where a lawyer once told me, "We don't care, the founding fathers are dead," unquote. And I said, you know what? That's why people tear up courts when they're in front of you, because they have no respect for the rule of law. And until we say, no, we're not going to tolerate this anymore, we're done. It's over. Nothing will change. But it's tyranny. It's lawlessness. America is in a state of lawlessness. Look what the Senate's doing to Kavanaugh. Not even adhering to their own rules because they want power. Now, how we're going to fix this is a question that I can't answer. But I can tell you this. The first step is in 2 letters, N-O. I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to adhere to your rules. I'm not getting your licenses, your privileges, your permits, because I'm a free person. And if I'm not, show me where I'm not, tyrant.
Well, that is, and Mike, thanks for calling. That is a great point. Brandon, the power of saying no, and that I think is an answer for many people who are facing police abuse, is simply say, I make no statement. I do not answer your questions without an attorney present. Give me my Miranda warnings. And Chattanooga does not Mirandize anybody. Nobody gets Miranda warning in Chattanooga by the CPD, even though it's on page 6 of the arrest manual, which is 13 pages. No one gets Mirandized except perhaps a murder suspect.
Wow. It's pretty appalling.
That's my impression, and I've not been told differently by the department, but it's a rule that's ignored. And so saying no, but we have just another minute or two. We're talking with Brandon Woodruff, who ran for the state house in position in the Democratic Party that was won by Yusuf Hakeem, who is facing Lemon Williams in the Republican side. What other points of reform, Brandon, would be worth my listener considering in Chattanooga?
Okay. I mean, honestly, I really don't have any more or too many more reforms that I can think about, but I do want to comment on the gentleman's statement and the comment about the traveling and things of that such, especially and being a young man of African-American descent. While myself, I understand the entirety of the statute and the limitations in which it enables, I think one of the many things that always is overted from the conversation is the fact that driving while being black or being black in the situation. And a lot of those statutes and those things, because of the comment that he just made, you have white men who run this hierarchical system who essentially throw out all of the rules and are not playing by the rules in which we are taught or by the rules in which we're trying to utilize, in this case being not having abuse from the Title 55 or being abused by that. It goes out the window when you're black. A lot of it goes out of the window when you're black. So it's kind of hard to even educate our community with these things to even enact or utilize these things when they too still possibly may be victimized and or be abused or hurt, even given their constitutional rights to the officer.
That's what Cameron Williams told me in an interview. He said, well, that's all fine, David, but I'm black.
It's a difference.
I'm black, and you're talking about these legal fine points and my rights and in my liberties and so on. But if I'm black and that cop is out there outside my window, I'm a victim. There's hardly any way of not being victimized somehow.
Yeah, seriously. And so like one of the main solutions that I would give is just simply and solely having those white male counterparts who are in favor and who do support to actually join hands with those black brothers who are being victimized.
Brandon Woodruff, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
David Toulis of New Radio. Tune in tomorrow and at 11 for Marie Mott. And next, guess what? We've got Sean Hannity live right here at Nougat Radio.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. now.
A credit card skimming device was found at a gas station on Amnicola Highway. Reports say police are working with surveillance camera footage to ID the person who placed it at the BP. If you used your card to buy gas at the BP on Amnicola, check your bank statements for fraudulent charges. President Trump appearing in Johnson City, Tennessee last night to campaign for Marsha Blackburn, saying, quote, "A vote for Marsha is really a vote for me." Meanwhile, in Chattanooga, Phil Bredesen attended the Choose Chattanooga